Roadshow News Recap starts right now. Our lead story this week comes courtesy of Honda. The Japanese automaker released a couple photos of its upcoming Civic Type R. It's pretty exciting. Sean and I will talk all about this later in the show. Beyond that, GM revealed a new driving aid called Ultra Cruise, and it promises hands-free operation in 95% of situations, which could be huge news. Next up, Mazda teased 3 new upcoming SUVs and confirmed that it's going to build an inline 6-cylinder engine, which is always great to hear. Then Ford teased its next generation Ranger pickup truck again, and there's more to see in the short video that the automaker shared, so we'll talk about that. And finally, our own producer Evan Miller purchased a new car, or I should say vehicle, and we'll fill you in on that just a little bit later. But happy Friday, everyone, and salutations to you, Sean.
And hello to you, Craig. Hello, everybody. Thank you for watching. And if you see some bags under my eyes, it's because I'm real tired because I have a new puppy here. So if you're missing out on some of the other stuff from the Roadshow News channel, we will be back next week with more stuff once I sleep for 48 hours straight.
And we're going to need a weekly puppy update as well, Sean, to let the world know how Connor is doing.
Yes, the baby with hair.
Yes, the infant with very hairy infant. But
yes.
Anyway, if you're watching, make sure you like and subscribe. It helps us out enormously. Thank you for watching, of course. But moving along, let's start with that Civic Type R story. And Sean, you are one of Roadshow's resident Honda experts, along with our very own John Wong. So I'm just going to throw it to you. This is like right in your wheelhouse. So kick it off. Why don't ya?
Okay, let's go. Let's hit the ground running. Yes, we got just two photos and no additional information, but nevertheless, Honda showed us for the first time the new Civic Type R. And there was no information with them, so we kind of had to take our impressions from just these 2 photos. But the first impressions for me are, it looks really good, number one. And number 2, it still looks like it's going to be an absolute riot to drive. And I go back to the first point on number 1, because from a design standpoint, Craig, I know you agree with this. The new Civic, no matter the hatchback or the sedan, this current new generation looks really good. It's more mature. It looks more grown up, and it's going to age a lot better, I think, than the previous generation now. The trade-off for that is the current Civic Type R looks like this wild, raucous thing that really, I think, stands out, whereas this is a little smoother. It's more restrained. Yes. But I think when all is said and done, this is going to be a much better looking Type R than the one that will soon be leaving us.
Yes, it will not have all kinds of crazy angles and surfaces and vents and wings and whatnot. It still has the triple blunderbuss exhaust outlet, which is super cool. It also has that a gigantic wing on the back, although it almost looks like it has linkage where it's adjustable. I'm sure it's not, but it's got some complexity to it that I'm not sure about. But anyway, this, like you said, Sean, is a much more mature looking Type R, and I am all for that because I like clean, simple design personally. Mm-hmm. That being said, again, Honda didn't share any information about this vehicle, but I would imagine the interior is going to be very similar to the 2022 Civic, which is a very good thing because it is excellent. Again, the cabin is much more grown up, much more mature, super high quality. I'm actually driving a new Civic hatchback this week. I can't tell you about it. It's embargoed until next week, Monday. But it is a lot like the sedan, and the sedan is phenomenal. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, that's all you can say, unless you want to get in trouble and a slap on the wrist, Craig.
I don't want to get in trouble. Do we have any idea, Sean? What if you were a betting man, what do you think is going to be under the hood of this new Type R?
I am not a betting man because I'm super unlucky, number one. But if I were placing a bet on this, I would imagine it's going to be something nearly identical to the current Civic Type R, which is that 2-liter turbo 4, 306 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. But who knows? I mean, Honda could go in there and tweak some things, and I think that's reasonable. They could, change some things up and find a few extra horsepower. I don't foresee anything super crazy. Um, I know there were perhaps rumors once upon a time that, a Type R, like a higher performing Type R, could come around with all-wheel drive or some sort of hybrid system, but that hasn't really been floating around recently. So I don't expect anything super crazy to come. And that's okay because that 2-liter turbo is really, really superb.
Oh, it's phenomenal. And it outruns cars that are more powerful than it. I remember years ago we did a comparison test at my previous employer. We had a Ford Focus RS and the Civic Type R. And the Ford Focus, if I remember, had 350 horsepower. And the Civic turned in not significantly, but it was quicker around the track when our hot shoe took them around. So
Hmm.
heroic performance from this car. Um, and I imagine Honda will still go with that 2-liter turbo 4. They'd be fools not to because it's phenomenal. And they'll
Hmm.
probably find a little bit more horsepower and torque from it. But who knows if all-wheel drive might join the lineup or a hybrid option. That would be pretty cool, but we'll have to see. Do you think the Civic Type R is going to spawn an Acura model, Sean?
That is the big, big question that I think everyone's starting to ask is, we found out that the new Integra that's coming back, which we're going to see next year, is going to be a 5-door hatchback. So just like a Civic Type R. So it seems kind of like a no-brainer that, Acura is all in on the Type S badge right now, that you kind of take the Type R goods and plop them in the Integra, and now you got an Integra Type S. It just seems like a no-brainer, but we have to make educated guesses because we don't know anything is certain. But this new Integra is absolutely riding on the same platform as the Civic, but not that any of that's been confirmed. But so I just think it's a no-brainer overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why not? And Acura could use some love as well, right?
Hmm.
They've come a long way the last few years, but they're still not quite where they were 15, 20 years ago or earlier, right? They really
Right?
launched
Yeah.
as a performance brand and they kind of got
Yeah.
away from that. So
And
we'll have
I'll
to see.
just, as some extra evidence to perhaps a Integra Type S with some Type R goods, uh, the NSX is going away and signing off with its own Type S variant. And once those cars are sold out for the next model year, the NSX is dead. The idea was at Acura that they need a new icon with the NSX going away, and that's going to be the Integra. So if you want to create a halo vehicle like the Integra, you're probably going to slap something high performance in it alongside selling perhaps a little bit more luxurious ones, or, even like the original Integras of yore. They were
Hmm.
nicer than a Civic, but sporty and fun to drive.
Yeah,
I owned an Integra GSR at one point. I mean, just fantastic cars.
yeah. And if it's based on the new Type R, it should be fantastic as well. Interesting, Acura going back to real names too, if they bring back the Integra nameplate. So
Hmm.
very interesting stuff. Moving along, though, what is better than Super? Well, of course, it is Ultra. And on Wednesday of this week,
Duh.
GM announced its new. I mean, come on, Ultra beats Super every time. GM announced its new Ultra Cruise driving aid, which, as its name suggests, goes a step beyond the already amazing Super Cruise, which is obviously a hands-free driving aid. Super Cruise works amazingly well. I just tested it a few weeks ago in a new Escalade, and um, on those limited access divided highways, it is freaking amazing. It keeps that vehicle right in the center of its lane. As long as you're paying attention, you don't have to have your hands on the wheel. The car does the rest. But moving beyond that is Ultra Cruise, which GM says will work in 95% of driving scenarios. That includes city streets, subdivision cul-de-sacs, 2-lane country roads, all of these different scenarios, maybe even dirt roads. We don't know, but I don't see why it couldn't work there as well. Ultra Cruise is expected once it does come out. They're saying 2023 they will introduce it, and it'll be exclusive to Cadillac, which makes a lot of sense. You push your highest technology, your newest features out on your luxury brand. But they're saying it's going to work on 2 million miles of roads. And then a little bit later, they will add another 1.4 million miles of roads. So that's roadway in the US and Canada. Pretty cool stuff. It'll be interesting to see if GM can actually pull it off, because this is like the holy grail, right, Sean? Like hands-free driving in all situations, basically.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of got maybe a little overshadowed by the Chevy Silverado EV teaser that came out alongside this news and some other corporate news that they shared all at the same time this week. But Ultra Cruise, I mean, this is a huge deal. And we have to say, this is not a fully autonomous system. It is not a self-driving car still, simply because just like Super Cruise, the driver needs to be paying attention 100% of the time. There's an onboard camera that monitors eye movement. And if it sees you, looking down to check your phone or read the newspaper, take a nap or anything like that, there are all sorts of warnings, alerts, vibrations, bing bongs that go off. And also the system does need a hand back control to the human driver at any moment. There's no fail safe built into this. So that's just important to distinguish that, GM is not going to have a self-driving car in 2023 when they plan to launch
pretty
this.
damn close.
But well, no, and this is where I was going, is that this is still an incredible technology feat. It's really GM's answer to what Tesla's trying to do with the full self-driving beta. In my opinion, GM's being a little bit more responsible about it with, the camera monitoring and things like that, where Tesla is a little more hands off with their beta program as people sign up and do things. Yeah, I didn't realize that was a pun until I was just like, oh, that was a good one. But yeah, I'm not here to make jokes. I'm here to, just tell you guys about all this good stuff. I could never be a comic,
right.
but
sure you could.
But yeah, oh no, absolutely not. No one would laugh. Yeah, that's okay. I think I'm funny sometimes, but that's about it.
Well, as long as you're amusing yourself, that's what counts. That's most important.
Exactly. Exactly. But
so that's the key to Super Cruise, how it works today. You have like the LiDAR, the radar, the GPS, all these sensors. But the critical thing, like you mentioned, Sean, is the driver monitor, because the driver has to be able to take control at any time for any reason. The system will alert you and you've got to be ready. So that's the key to what makes it work. And that's obviously going to be included in Ultra Cruise. They say there's going to be a human machine interface in front of the driver. We don't know what that's going to look like just yet. It's probably going to be, I would assume, a lot more advanced than Super Cruise. But this is kind of like Super Cruise Mark II, really. It's realizing the dream of Super Cruise, I guess, and that it should work in 95% of situations. Seriously cool really tech. And I wonder, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, really what this, where this is going to work, on those 2 million some miles to start, is really any paved road that has been mapped of those 2 million miles, is what GM said. And then they plan to add, over 1 million more the following year. And as long as they keep mapping the stuff with the, the technologies they have to do this, I mean, it really is a game changer, because, I'm not saying Tesla's doing it wrong. In my opinion, I think GM's being a little bit more responsible when it comes to hands off the wheel technologies, but LiDAR works, and, sensors work, and 3D mapping works. And you do that, and then once you update the mapping, and you have a pretty reliable system that, as long as it doesn't encounter anything crazy, I mean, again, 95% of the time you could let the car drive. I mean, that is just incredible. And, Tesla has got there first. There's no discounting the fact that full self-driving in its own way is very impressive for what it can do, but also, just to see another company get that close already is really wild, really, really wild stuff.
Yeah. And Ultra Cruise is set to come out in 2023. So what, a year or so away, which is not bad. And that's interesting. This is going to put GM ahead of rivals, because like Crosstown in Dearborn, Ford is only just launching Blue Cruise, right? They're just coming out with it this year. And that doesn't even offer quite the same level of functionality you get in Super Cruise. So GM is already taking the next step beyond that and charting a course into the future. So it'll be very interesting to see how this goes. But I think given how well Super Cruise already works from day one, I think Ultra Cruise will be a smashing success. And of course, beyond that, GM is going to continue pushing Super Cruise out to other models. Ultra Cruise goes to Cadillac first. Chevy, Buick, GMC, they're getting all Super Cruise. So,
Craig, I think there was a better way to word that. Hopefully, it's not a smashing success.
Oh, that's true. See, you are funny.
But, yeah, that just like rang a bell in my head. I'm like, oh no. But yeah, and funny thing you mentioned, Super Cruise on the Escalade, right now, you actually can't get an Escalade with Super Cruise right now.
Yeah.
Actually, because of the chip shortage. I spoke to Cadillac. It was this week or last week, whenever this happened. And they removed it from the new Escalade, and they only shipped like a baker's dozen worth of CT4s or CT5s with the Super Cruise system. So it's not even available on any Cadillacs right now.
Oof, that's the damn chip shortage. Rumor has it they're going away from fuel injection too because they can't get chips. So they're going to switch back to a Rochester Quadrajet carburetor.
Yeah.
For the 6.2. That'd be quite a serious chip shortage then.
Yeah, it would. I thought you were serious about something for a second, then I was just like, oh wait, no, he's going down that
serious me. Come on.
Yeah, totally. But yes, that is truly wild technology. But shifting gears away from these hands driving things, Craig, I know you want to give us a healthy or a fun plug for all of our viewers.
Yes. If you're watching now, thank you so much. When you're done viewing this video, consider checking out a couple of our other recently published videos. We've got one on the Hummer EV pickup. I took that for a very quick first drive, so make sure you watch that. And then we've also got a review, another first drive of the redesigned Lexus NX. I think Andrew Kroc hosted that video. So when you're done here, keep watching. We've got a lot more great content on the primary Roadshow channel, so make sure you check that out. But Sean, Mazda made some news this week. What's going on in Hiroshima?
Yeah, they're going all in on their SUV portfolio, and it's going to start with what is basically a rebranding of what they call their SUVs. No longer will they be CX dash a single number, just like we saw with the CX-30. Everything's moving to dual numbers, so that it will be CX-50. There's a new CX-70 coming, which I guess you could call a spiritual successor to the CX-7 that hasn't been around for a while. And the CX-9 will go away in favor of a CX-90. And the big news is the CX-70 and CX-90 will be on a brand new longitudinal platform, and they will feature inline-6 power with a plug-in hybrid system, Craig.
Nice. So when you say longitudinal, is that just that would normally mean rear-wheel drive, but it doesn't necessarily mean rear-wheel drive. Did they say anything about this platform being rear-drive biased?
They didn't specifically mention that. In fact, they were playing up the all-wheel drive aspect of these SUVs, so they very well just could be utilizing each of these SUVs with all-wheel drive instead. But there was no specific mention of rear-wheel drive. We know there have been rumors of the Mazda 6 turning into something far more premium, perhaps a rear-wheel drive based sedan with its own inline 6. We'll have to wait and see if those those rumors come to fruition. But if they will, it's going to be riding on this new platform with that powertrain for sure.
Yeah. I ask that because normally when you have a longitudinal powertrain, you almost always have the platform rear-wheel drive as the primary configuration. There are a few instances where you'll run a longitudinal engine and still have front drive, like the Chrysler LH platform was set up that way, and some Volkswagen, like the Passat a couple generations ago, and the corresponding Audi models were set up in a similar way, but
Mhm.
usually longitudinal means rear drive based. So we'll
Yeah.
have to see.
Yeah, but aside from those, which Mazda really just gave us the big things on the platform, the engine, they will be plug-in hybrids. Those SUVs, the CX-90 will be a three-row SUV. The CX-70 will be a two-row. The CX-50 will not replace the CX-5. It will share underpinnings with the CX-30 and the Mazda 3, and only feature all-wheel drive, while the CX-5 actually sticks around. Mazda isn't going to kill
Hmm.
it and replace it with the CX-50. The CX-5 is going to be instead this like entry level compact SUV kind of thing, and they plan to turn it into just like a collection pool of the nice stuff coming to the new CX SUVs that will trickle down to CX-5. So like
Huh.
you want a Mazda SUV with the nice stuff, but perhaps these more premium SUVs are unattainable, you look at a CX-5, which when I
Hmm.
say it, it sounds weird because it's like, isn't that why you have the CX-30 as like an entry level SUV? But I don't know.
They're slightly differently sized. It's a weird strategy, but I like that they are sort of sticking. They're going with a common nomenclature. The double numbers now makes more sense than having a single number and then some with double
The
numbers.
dual number,
I
yeah,
wish they
yeah.
would. I wish they would rename the car because calling it Mazda 3 is just stupid, or Mazda 6 is just frankly stupid. Because then what do you write? It's the Is it the Mazda 6? No, you just have to say
Yeah.
Mazda 6 then.
Yeah, that's always been a
Which
goofy
is
copy thing to write,
yeah.
because it's like, well, technically it's a Mazda 3 is how
Mhm.
Mazda refers to it as, and that's official. Then there's the Mazda Speed 3, like all sorts of, yeah. I
Yeah.
think those could do with even a better alphanumeric thing personally, but marketers know
Yeah.
better. They might see that the Mazda 3, Mazda 6, whatever names do well, or the Mazda 6 dead now, so never mind.
Yeah. Also, the CX-50, it's supposed to be unveiled next month, and apparently they're going to build that starting in January 2022 at a new joint venture plant with Toyota, which I thought was fascinating. Is there any more to
Mhm.
that story, Sean?
This plant has been in the works for a while. Um, I can't remember the specific details of like how they perhaps planned on sharing production capacity, but me just kind of spitballing, that's interesting that the CX-5 will be built there and not some sort of like shared vehicle project. Like you would think like Toyota has, let's say, the Corolla Cross, so then Mazda's going to build a vehicle that's similar or rides on the same platform as the Corolla Cross, to just utilize economies of scale. But I don't have the inside story on how that will work.
Yeah.
Clearly it makes sense in some way for both of them to share the investment, and they'll recoup their costs somehow.
Yeah. It's also so a new architecture and a new
Hmm.
engine. That's fascinating in the 21st century when everything is going electric. You don't hear very much about new
Yep.
internal combustion engines. This one obviously it takes a few years to develop them, so this has been in the works for a while. But still interesting. Mazda's bringing out a new inline six. Do we know the displacement or any details about it, Sean?
They haven't
Just that it's
said
coming.
anything. Yeah, they just they and it was such a like a nonchalant way. They're just like, "Yeah, here's all this stuff and it'll have an inline 6." It was almost like it was so casual the way they said it in this announcement. It's just like, this is a really big deal. Like you
Yes.
said, the research and development and the money it costs to create a new architecture and a new engine, and now you're adding a plug-in hybrid powertrain, which if I had any inkling, I would bet that the plug-in hybrid aspect is an afterthought. I guarantee you that these engines were supposed to come with no electrification. And, Mazda's a small automaker with fewer resources than, a Toyota, Honda, a GM, or something like that. I bet you that these were supposed to be around earlier, but they were delayed and it
Hmm.
took longer because they wanted some sort of electrification as the industry really moves towards electrification, I think, quicker than
Yeah.
anybody thought it would.
Yeah, you look at the investments Ford is making in its new factories and battery factories in Tennessee and in Kentucky. Similar story at GM. Stellantis is also making huge investments in electric. Yeah, it's moving quickly. It's also interesting too. You mentioned they might be behind the curve. They didn't initially plan to have these be electrified, perhaps. That makes a lot of sense because remember they were going to offer a diesel, and
Hmm.
how
Yep.
delayed was that? And then they sold it for like a month, and then I'm being
Yep.
facetious. It was probably more than a month, but it wasn't very long, and then it
It
disappeared.
was like one model
Now they've
year, actually. I
Yeah,
think
yeah, and now
that's it.
they've got the MX-30 all-electric crossover with 100 miles of range in 2021. You tell me they're not on the back foot right now when it comes to electrification, because that just doesn't make any sense. That is not even good
Yeah.
range for like 2010.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the MX-30, which will only be sold in California to start, it will be available nationwide eventually in the US, but just California right now. I think that car is super geared towards um, compliance, perhaps. I think that was a term that was really popular when like the Spark EV was a thing from Chevy, and the Fiat 500, the first Fiat 500e compliance cars. Um, it just feels like not enough. Our
Yeah.
Antoine Goodwin drove the car and liked it. But I agree with you that 100 miles in anywhere outside of like good EV driving weather. And by that, I mean, like 75, 85 degrees and sunny. That is not going to get you far in Michigan, Craig. And it's not going to get me very far if I'm trying to take a road trip in Ohio.
Mhm. Absolutely. So there you go.
Uh,
Maybe you'd be better served by a pickup truck, Sean. Perhaps the next generation Ford Ranger, even, which Ford of
yes.
Australia teased this week in a very short video. They showed off a camouflaged version of this mid-size pickup truck. Well, mid-size in America. It's pretty much a full size anywhere else in the world, but they gave us
Yeah.
a little teaser of this thing, and you can see it driving along there, and you can't tell a whole lot. It's got a super cab body. It's got an open bed. It looks like it has four wheels, and that's about it.
Yeah. There you have it. Next segment, please.
Thanks for watching, folks. We're done here.
Yeah, no, no, yeah. I mean, this is the same truck that Ford of North America showed us. So they are still just teasing this global model, which is sold in Australia and Thailand and those other countries. Whatever Ford
Mhm.
has planned for Canada and the U.S. Do they sell, Craig? Do you know? Do they sell the North American model in Mexico? Is it all of North America or?
That's a good question. While
Yeah.
you converse, I'm going to go to Ford
Yes.
of
Yeah,
Mexico.
because I wanted to say, the truck they sell in North America, but I'm not sure if Mexico gets the global model or not. Anyway, whatever Ford has planned for the U.S., Canada, and perhaps Mexico, once we find that answer for you in a moment, it's going to
I'm
be a little
clicking
bit
on
different.
vehiculos,
Oh, okay. There you go.
and I
He
think it's a
Craig is fluent in
Caminos.
Spanish. Um,
No, I'm not.
Whatever they have planned will be a little bit different just because American buyers have different needs, different wants when it comes from pickup trucks. The design will probably be a little bit different. The powertrains, like, certainly don't expect the diesel that will be offered in Australia and other places. But one powertrain
Yes.
that is rumored is a
It looks
plug-in
like the same
hybrid.
Ranger is offered in Mexico. So there you
Oh,
go.
well, there you go. So all of North America will get the North American spec that you can buy at a U.S. dealer or Canada. So yes, Craig, I was just saying there is a chance that we see a plug-in hybrid for this new Ranger, which would be a big move from Ford. That if GM's
Hmm.
jumping ahead of Ford with Ultra Cruise, uh, you know, a plug-in hybrid midsize pickup, that could be appealing to a lot of people at Ford,
It could
which
be
GM
the
doesn't
best
have.
of both worlds. Or maybe even a fully electric Ranger. If they can do it with the Lightning, they ought to be able to do something similar in a slightly smaller package. But we'll see. There may
Oh yeah.
not be the bandwidth, the demand for two all electric trucks. But so that would
I
remain to
think
be
if you're gonna,
seen. But
I think if you're at Ford and you want another electric pickup truck, do the Maverick. That's what I'd
I
say.
was just gonna
That makes
say,
so
literally
much more
just gonna say,
sense. Yeah.
yeah. And the Maverick, I haven't driven it, but pretty impressive reviews for that little bugger. I mean, people seem
Yeah.
to really like it. It's like a
Yeah,
back
it
to
looks
basics.
great.
It's an honest vehicle. Yeah,
It feels very
but
appropriate for the times when I feel like a lot of car people and perhaps car shoppers are looking for just some basic modern technology. You talk to so many people, they just want like Apple CarPlay and, keyless
mhm.
entry or, the smart keyless. You just hit the button on the doorknob or the door handle, I mean. It's like instead of kitting these cars out with really, oftentimes useful stuff, and sometimes, you're just like, "Well, I don't even use this in my car." It's just like, that might be really, really appealing to people. And I think everyone here at Roadshow believes that Ford's going to sell Mavericks like they're going out of style, like they're just
I
going to
mean,
be
didn't they
everywhere.
have
I think.
hundreds of thousands of reservations, or maybe that was the Lightning I'm confusing it
I
with, but I
I
thought there were a
can't
huge number for the
remember.
Maverick too. Yeah.
Yeah. Maverick, I
Anyway,
think
it's gonna
was
be a big
yeah.
product.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
But back to Ranger, we have no idea what will be under the hood. In America, we have the 2.3 EcoBoost four-cylinder with what,
Hmm.
270 horsepower. So I would expect that to continue. But again, to Sean's point, maybe a plug-in, maybe a hybrid drivetrain, or as people were clamoring for, the 2.7-liter EcoBoost V6. That is a delightful little engine in the much
Hmm.
larger F-150. In fact, it might be the best engine they offer in that truck. It's really nice when it comes to power and economy and everything. So if
You
they
know where
drop that
that
in the Ranger,
engine you know where that engine would do
what?
really well, Craig? In
Where?
a Ranger Raptor.
Indeed, it would. That would be perfect. And they should bring
Yes.
it to the US. If you're
Yes, I
listening,
agree.
Ford, we want some Ranger Raptor, please. But anyway, yeah, not a lot to see about this new Ranger from the teaser video that was released by Ford of Australia, but it's probably going to have like those C-clamp shaped headlights you get on the F-150, expect a ladder frame, live axle, independent front suspension, all that good stuff, and not a radical departure from what we have today. So anyway, we're excited to see that, and it's expected to go in production in America in July of 2023, an oddly specific date. But we'll see what happens. Obviously, they should unveil the truck a lot sooner than that.
Mhm.
But in other Ford news, our very own video producer, Evan Miller, purchased a new vehicle, and it's pretty surprising. It's
Yep.
not
I
what
don't
you
know if
might expect. There
there
it
he
is.
is, look at that.
He bought
Wow.
a commercial van, a Ford Transit. Now, Sean, why would anybody, any hip young video producer, why would he want a van, a plumber's van?
Yeah, well, number one, we're speaking for Evan because with the system we use, he can't like call in. He's behind the scenes right
Yes.
now. So we're kind of speaking for him. But yeah, he was super pumped about this, and we said, yeah, let's talk about it on the show because it's dope. But yeah, he's just gonna go travel. Like just hop in there, and I asked him like, where do you want to go first? And he's like, Montana. Like just get into the wilderness, and you
Yeah.
can see there's some stuff in there to like live in it a little bit. While he's
Yeah.
traveling. So like that's really cool. So we're excited to see what Evan is going to be doing to this thing, and creating a super sweet space to park it somewhere outside of Helena,
Yeah.
Montana, and just be under the stars, and that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. And he got the high roof model. Looks like he also got the 3.5-liter EcoBoost engine, so he should have plenty of power in there. Um, yeah, it's going to be exciting to see how he kits this thing out. And I guess he's going to turn it into something of an overlanding rig. So that's super cool. Able to get
Yeah,
a little bit off the beaten path. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, and I gotta say, I reviewed a transit van last year, and for a big, chunky, tall, ungainly thing, it really drives pretty well and is pretty
Oh
fuel
yeah,
efficient.
I
So
I once upon a time had to rent one of those big ones, just like he purchased, probably the same model year, around the time when I purchased my house, and I had to get some furniture out of somebody's basement. Good old hand-me-downs when you first move out. Uh, but in it just swallowed everything, and driving it was like I was driving I don't know, a minivan. It's not difficult to drive. It looks more intimidating than it is.
Yeah, it's totally easy and should be very livable.
Hmm.
Super cool. What else happened
Yes.
this week, Sean?
Oh yeah, aside from Evan's super cool purchase and everything else we discussed today, over at theroadshow.com, we have a lot of good stuff, including just today, Lexus dropped a teaser for the new LX SUV. We're not getting the new Toyota Land Cruiser, but we will get the Lexus version, the LX. So you can see that first teaser over there. Elon Musk said something again. And this time he says that Tesla is moving its headquarters to Texas and leaving California. Apparently, they're still going to invest in manufacturing there, but headquarters will move to Texas. And we also had a really, really cool piece that our own Antoine Goodwin did on like a behind the scenes of the cars in the latest James Bond film. I believe that's out today, No Time to Die. So you can take a look at the Aston Martins and Land Rovers and other cool cars that are in that flick. Antoine takes a deep dive into those, which is super cool.
Where can people read about all this stuff?
TheRoadshow.com. Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Sean, thank you very much. Evan, thank you as well for doing all the technical stuff. I couldn't figure that out. I don't think Sean could figure that out, which is why we've got you.
Yeah, thank God.
So thank you very much. Yeah, and congrats on your Ford Transit van. And of course, thank you all so much for watching Roadshow News Recap, where we dissect and discuss the most important car-related stories of the past week. And with that, we're signing off. Have a great weekend. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.